All right, let's come back now to, of course, Devon, whereby, we ask if Team South Africa is heading over to WEF now. They're making the investment case there next week. They're off to Davos, but what are the prospects there, Devon?
It's a big question there, Tamara. And of course, what we want investment to flood into the country, create the economic activity and jobs. But as Team South Africa heads off to the World Economic Forum on this investment drive, one economist says figures suggest that the private sector is no longer on an investment strike. We heard that phrase before and it just raised caution. Investec's Annabelle Bishop says there's been an uptick in capital expenditure by the private sector while government expenditure contracted during a particular period. And let's just see what she's talking about there. We looked at last year, 2 quarters, private sector expenditure growth 15% or above in the second quarter. In the third quarter, private sector growth up by 10.8%. Now, what she says that, on the other hand, when you look at what government did in that same period, government expenditure actually contracted 16.3% in the second quarter, down 17% in the third quarter. By comparison, the private sector looks like, they're starting to pick up to put some money into the economy. Let's take a listen to Annabelle Bishop.
That's domestic fixed investment from private sector corporates already in South Africa, and it's really showing that the investment strike is non-existent in South Africa. If you're getting plus 16% growth from the private sector and you're getting negative contraction from government, it's the government who's on an investment strike, not the private sector. And of course, a lot of those investments do tend to be wind farms, renewable energy, and that's something positive for the future.
So investment is climbing in some areas, but make no mistake, South Africa is not exactly flying high. In fact, one study suggests we've been in a free fall over the past decade. And Michael Morelia, I suppose it's all well and good to have blurps in private sector expenditure in the second and third quarters we see last year. Good news, that doesn't tell the entire prolonged picture. Am I right? What we need is an environment conducive to doing business. We haven't been doing too great on that particular scale, have we?
Absolutely, Devon. So welcome to the drop zone, Dev. This is what we're using, the metaphor we're using to explore a particular survey. So the World Bank does this survey, Devon, called the Doing Business Survey, where it ranks countries in terms of the ease of doing business. So you arrive in a country with lots of money, you want to invest it, but how much red tape do you actually have to deal with? So that's what we're going to explore over the next few minutes. So let's get started, Dev, and we'll take a look at South Africa's ranking over the last few years. 2013, not that long ago, Devon, 39th in the world. Bear in mind, this was out of nearly 190 countries. We slipped the following year, Devon, to 41st again. We dropped another 2 places the following year, and then wait for this, Devon. We really do need a parachute in this instance. 2016, 73rd position in the world. Another drop in 2017 to 74th. 2018 and 2019, we kind of stabilized in 82nd position in the world. But again, Devon, 2020, the latest report came out just a few months ago, sitting at 84th in the world. Remember, we started 2013 at 39th position in the world. So, of course, Devon, a lot of questions being asked as Tito Mboweni takes South Africa's team to the World Economic Forum about why we just keep dropping in this particular survey. Why are we making it so hard for people to invest in this country and actually do business? Devon?
And I suppose, if you look at it, there are some countries you would think would be below us in terms of doing business. Some countries you never thought would be ahead of us. Not the case. You've got 2 countries to show us here.
Well, look at these. Mongolia, Devon, 81st in the world. Albania, 82nd. And Kuwait, finishing in 83rd. So according to the World Bank, it's easier to do business in these countries than it is in South Africa, because, of course, South Africa finished 84th in the world. So we were flying high at one stage, Devon, but it seems we are falling fast. But Cyril Ramaphosa says there is a plan. His mission is to get us back into the top 50, Devon, by the year 2022, perhaps 2023. He made that statement at the State of the Nation address last year. He is sending his general Tito Mboweni, the finance minister, will be leading the delegation. And he isn't mincing his words. He never minces his words, Devon. He has said that structural reform is the key to attracting investors to our country. So making our economy lean, mean and focused on actually getting higher levels of productivity and making it easier for investors to do business. This is what he tweeted just a few days ago, Devon. If you can't effect deep economic reform, it's game over. Stay as you are and you are downgraded to junk status. The consequences are dire. So that's really the mentality going into this, Devon. There seems to be a recognition that, wow, we've got to improve our game if we want to attract these investors. Of course, the question is, will the rest of government put their support behind the General, Tito Mboweni?
And some of the variables you talk of when you point to this particular index by the World Bank on the ease of doing business, it's electricity supply, it's policy certainty, and of course it's also at a fundamental, what structures are there to actually open up a business. That index tells us we don't score very well as we want to.
Very quickly want to throw in a quick stat for you, Devon. New Zealand is the top-ranked country in terms of the processes that you have to go through to start a business. New Zealand, it takes just one process, Devon, and you can do it in half a day. In South Africa, according to this survey, 7 processes. It takes 40 days to achieve the same thing.
Michael Morelia, thanks very much indeed. Let's just very quickly to see where the markets are leaving us this afternoon. We'll pull up the chart. You'll see the JSE in a buoyant mood. It's following world markets, more than 3/3 of a percentage point up. Financials and banks not doing that great, but a good day for the old share. What is the currency doing this afternoon? We just came out of an interest rate cut late yesterday, and you'll see to the dollar 14.39. It's actually somewhat weaker against the dollar compared to yesterday, so ignore the arrow. To the euro 15.99, to a British pound 18 rand 76 cents. Well, that's where we leave the numbers for now, to me.
Thank you so much, David, for that update. And still to